Well, hello there, and this is Penny Johnson again for something different in this video. I've got my ball cap on again, and because I'm doing somewhat rather sports related, that is related to sports broadcasting, sports commentators, I thought I would do a little self-analysis of and record myself basically analyzing my movements at the piano, talking about the wrists and the fingertips, arms, use of the body in the production of good tone at the piano, because certainly tone, our quality of tone is very important. How we strike each key, how we get from one key to the next is so very important. We don't want to just slam the key and push it down mechanically. It's quite a sophisticated instrument, the piano is, and the more you play it and the more carefully you listen and experiment with using the joints of your body in different ways, like the different joints in your fingers, your wrist, your elbow, your arm weight, your back weight, even your bum, and your legs and feet. And of course, how you listen is ultimately what matters most. Listening to your sound with X-ray ears, as my teacher's husband used to say. Um, but anyhow, I thought this might be a nice little change from just plain looking at a performance straight away with no talking or anything. I guess I'm feeling a little bit conversational here, so you can come with me for the ride, or you can stop right now and exit the video. But anyhow, the piece I've chosen is the E flat minor prelude number 8 by J.S. Bach. This comes from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1, and Bach wrote 2 books of these, and they contain 48 preludes and fugues. We're just going to hear one prelude from Book 1, and it's a very expressive, melancholy, somber, dark, brooding, intimate, solemn kind of a piece that's very thoughtful and I think philosophical at times, and spiritual in a very open, free, excuse me, way. You'll have to. I'm holding my computer here. You can see the top of it so that I can watch the performance. I don't have the best know-how when it comes to operating technical stuff, and it's been a challenge because before the pandemic, my goodness, I had no problem going to a place and, well, I mean, I get nervous, of course, but I could go to a recital and play and talk to the audience beforehand about the music, or I could go to a library or somewhere and, or do some adjudicating in public and talk quite comfortably to the crowd. Um, but I don't know, just doing it over I'm fine enough talking to the camera like this, but then when it comes to knowing how to edit and getting everything smoothly functioning into place, I feel like I'm better off camera than on camera, if you know what I mean. Um, and I just don't know how to make myself look nice either. I feel like now that everything is online, you really need to look good, but I just don't know how. So I feel like, well, at least I can look kind of cute with a cap on. It's about as good as I can do. Um, the other thing too about being a pianist is that usually all you see of the person is their side of the profile. Now I got to worry about head on. So different challenges. But I do have a new computer here. It was a birthday present from my family, so I'm very grateful for that. And of course, I have the grand piano. Finally, we're no longer playing on that little rinky-dink electric keyboard that I was on for forever and a day. Um, but anyhow, this is the E flat minor prelude of Bach, and I'm going to put my headphone on so that I can listen to the performance. I do need to get a proper microphone to record, because when I play loudly on the piano, that just it's too much for the microphone I've got. Um, so we're working on that. Um, so I'm going to watch my performance, and I'm sorry I can't look at the camera as I do this because I'm watching the video on the screen here, but I'm just going to observe and talk. And because I think, one of the nice things about, I just like chat some more here. One of the nice things about uh, using a medium like this, I mean, let's face it, even though we're musicians and our business is sound, um, due to the pandemic, we cannot live in purely a sound world. We have to embrace video. And I think about Marshall McLuhan and the things that he talked about with video versus radio and recordings, and hot media versus cool media. And with everything so visual, I don't think the sound, I mean, the quality of this audio certainly matters. You don't want to listen to popping noises in your ear, but people really need something to look at, something, they need to be entertained as much as taught. And that is a new challenge, trying to find a way. But, Glenn Gould, who is a Canadian pianist, obviously, Glenn Gould, 1932 to 1982, and he talked about the um, technology because he gave up giving live concerts. There was no pandemic when that happened in the early 1960s. He just chose to stop giving concerts and instead record in front of a microphone in a studio. That's all he wanted to do. He loved that space. And he felt that technology, now granted, he was rather, he really was an introvert. He loved his solitude. I think he once said that for every hour of time spent with other people, I need X number of hours alone. Um, there was another quote of his where he said, I can be alone anywhere. And that's saying something. And I wonder how he would have fared during the pandemic in forced isolation. Perhaps not so well. But this belief that he had, which was that technology had a moral um, dimension to it, that it could, by way of seclusion, each of us listening in our homes by ourselves, looking at the screen or listening to the record or the CD, we would have a more one-to-one connection with the artist, the person who created, whether it was the recording of the musical work or the dancer or whatever. Um, and so I think that is true. And in order to do that nowadays, because it's really largely video, one has to, um, like I'm looking at the camera now and it's just a little circle, with a light on it, but there's a person in there. And to have that in your mind when you're making content is a little bit frightening, and also very heartwarming and nice. So this is the learning process that so many of us are on. Those of us who were creating content for in-person consumption and for whom we really do not have a whole lot of skill for the application of that to the digital platform. But we're learning. We are learning lots of things. At the end of the day, we've learned that people need people. It's like the Barbra Streisand song goes, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. All right, so I am going to, with my cap on, I'm feeling very in the sports broadcaster mindset. I'm going to put my headphone back in here, and I'm going to pull up the video of my performance, modest as it is. Okay, so here we go. Now you can see that even in that first landing on the keys, I came from quite high up. This idea of coming off the key when you go to initiate a piece or a new phrase, a statement, a musical idea, is very important because the tone speaks more, it rings more. A lot of students want to stay on the keys at all times. There's another lift. And when the hand comes off the key, the wrist must be loose and relaxed too. Now my wrists, I tend to move around quite a bit with mine. Some pianists play with seemingly locked, immobile wrists, but mine, I bend them below and above the keys, as well laterally. I think of my wrists, there's another lift, I think of my wrists as a kind of shock absorber, as you would have on a car or a bicycle. They help to absorb the impact, in this case the impact of the hand striking the key. And sometimes it's a little bit, you can see the wrist bouncing there in broad gestures as well as occasionally for individual notes. And that helps the tone to speak as well. I do a lot of finger substitutions in playing Bach's music because that allows a person to limit the amount of holes. We don't want holes in our playing. Bach's music is polyphonic, many phonic sound, many sounds, many voices, many melodies, if you will, to put it simply. It's also been called horizontal music, Bach's music, horizontal, very linear. And so to limit the amount of coming off the key in the middle of musical motives and ideas allows for better horizontal movement, better musical architecture and delineation. Oh, you can see there I'm doing some finger substitutions. Sometimes the finger too, I notice I have very curved fingers, and then other times it's almost like a straight pencil finger. And this, there's another lift. I've got curved fingers here. When I want to really project a tone with a kind of a pungent, really like a laser beam going through the tone so that it really cuts through a texture, then I tend to use a very flat, firm finger. There's a lot of wrist movement here. It's important to clarify though that with this movement of the wrist, it's not a loose wobbly wrist by any stretch of the imagination. It's a firm wrist, but it's a flexible wrist. So the fingers are curved there. There's a substitution. You can't see many of the substitutions because my hands are in the way, but you can see when I switch from finger 4 in my right hand, which is the ring finger. Well, I guess the ring finger is your left hand, but you know what I mean. The 4th finger substituting to the 5th finger, the little pinky finger. That happens a lot. Also too, the use of the wrist in a lateral, like you're trying to draw a happy face with your wrist going below the keyboard in a circular manner. With some arm, you can't see my upper arms here, but when movement from the upper arm is applied as well, it helps to create great forward motion, kind of a sweeping gesture. I've got very curved fingers here. When you land on the keys too, there's always great release of the arms. Right. Okay, so that was just short and sweet here. I have no idea if this kind of content is at all useful, but I thought I would try it out. And maybe I'll do another one again soon. But thanks for coming with me on this little experiment, and we'll see you again hopefully in another video. All right, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.